Indeed. And speaking of something bad and leaks, I thought since we are on the topic, let's look at some leaks and consider the next Avengers movie. Because all the current movies, they're all just holdovers, aren't they? To bring us over to the next Avengers movie. That should be like the next big event, shouldn't it? Bringing back the Captain America and basically everyone we want to see, shouldn't it? Well, yeah, you may hope so, but this is not the case because we do have some leaks. These leaks, partially they come from Grace Randolph, partially they come from other places, but they have all been helpfully collected one place courtesy of Fandom Wire. So let's head on over to Fandom Wire and check out the Avengers lineup for the upcoming Avengers The Kang Dynasty, which is the movie to be written by the same author who also wrote Ant-Man Quantumania. So, yay, good times. Really strong writer there, isn't it? We also know something more about the movie. We know the movie's director, and the director of that movie is one Destin Daniel Cretton, who would be the same individual who also directed Shang-Chi. So, yeah, Culture, I can see that you are excited for Avengers
Oh,
Kang Dynasty
I,
already.
yeah. If we get the same kind of delivery from Daniel as we got in Shang-Chi, I can anticipate this to be a master flop. This will not, this will be a very expensive expenditure for
Oh,
Disney,
well,
just like Ant-Man. But yeah.
yeah. Well, hang on here, because there's more. So we know that it's written by Loveness, who wrote Quantumania, and it's directed by Gretton, who
Oh, okay.
also
All right.
directed Shang-Chi. But now we're not going to go down into the story because that may be slightly subject to change, but let's just go through who, according to the Fandom Wire sources, including what Grace Randolph has said publicly, are likely to be the lineup for this new Avengers.
I can
First and
hardly
foremost,
wait.
yeah, we have Spider-Man. And what they write here is that given that Tom Holland recently signed a new MCU contract with a much bigger paycheck, Spider-Man is set to play a crucial role in the story. Many scoopers, including Randolph, confirmed that he'd be the lead in the film. So it's basically a Spider-Man film, him taking over the role of Captain America / Tony Stark. And then, of course, this being from the director of Shang-Chi, you also have Shang-Chi. And here they write, since the Shang-Chi director is helming the Avengers, the Kang Dynasty, it's a no-brainer that the Asian hero will show up in the movie. Being the best martial artist in the world, his team up with Spider-Man will prove to be really intriguing. Will it? Well, we shall see. And then, of course, we have Captain America. Not Steve Rogers, but the Falcon donning the Captain America costume, as seen in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier on Disney Plus. This is the sequel to that. And then, of course, no, not of course, but then maybe surprisingly, we have Captain Marvel. And here they write, Carol Danvers may or may not be a full-time member of the next Avenger squad, but she's certainly rated very highly as a character. Really? By who? Once she joins the fight after traveling to Earth, she could become the co-leader alongside Sam Wilson. Wait, so Sam Wilson is the leader? Didn't they just say Spider-Man? Make up your minds. Also, Grace Randolph mentioned the fact that director Cretton, who has just worked with Brie Larson on movies like Short Term 12 and Just Mercy, demanded Captain Marvel to be in the film after adding her in Shang-Chi's mid-credit scene as well. So it would appear that Gretton is a fan of Captain Marvel. And then rounding out the team, we have Moon Knight, hot off the Disney Plus series, and Daredevil, to come in a Disney Plus series as well. And then there's also Shuri and the new Black Widow, Yelena Belova. And finally, Namor and definitely She-Hulk and possibly the Hulk. Oh, and Ant-Man and the Wasp. And under maybes is Hawkeye, assuming that he's able to heal enough for that time, so probably not. And Wong is also a maybe. And that then is the latest rumor for who is going to be the lead team in the next Avengers. So, Script Doctor, having heard this, how excited are you for the next Avengers movie, now knowing the director, writer, and likely lineup?
Not excited at all. I mean,
What? I am shocked.
shocked. Absolutely, yeah. No, you don't have a very good behind the scenes team to lead this thing forward, because the pattern of what their work has not been good. So, or not been to the standard of what Marvel had prior to Endgame in order to create or generate excitement.
Mr. Chato, do you share your excitement on this?
This really does feel second tier. Well, worse than second tier. I don't like the way Captain America was handled at all. I didn't like the handoff. Yeah, I mean, that I don't like the character. It's uninteresting. He's preachy. And then it's the same team, I believe, that are working on a Disney Plus show, Crouching Tiger, everywhere, all the time, whatever, with Michelle Yao. It looks like I think the Shang-Chi team is working on a Disney Plus show. And so they seem to be overextending themselves. Actually, I think a bathroom break would be overextending.
Culture. Now, when you've heard everything else here, let's have it. What kind of a winner is this going to be?
I could not express more lack of enthusiasm if I tried. I think we're getting, I guess, kind of half of A-Force in here or something. I mean, this is all designed to bring up, the sub-tier characters, as Paul was correctly calling them. This doesn't feel big. None of the characters we're being presented earned anything on screen or in the story. So I think that because everything that we're being presented is unearned, it doesn't garner enthusiasm. There's nothing to get hyped up over. None of the stories that any of these people were in were particularly compelling, especially, Falcon Cap and She-Hulk and, the 12 bracelet guy. And, the latest Ant-Man and Wasp is a resounding thud. And I really think Wakanda Forever was, not quality product. So it's like, essentially, this is like doubling down on undermining what was left of your value, in my opinion.
Tom, let's hear your enthusiasm for this.
This sucks.
Yeah. Don't care. Don't give a fuck. Outside of Spider-Man, I have no desire or interest in any of this shit. Don't care about any of these characters. I mean, are they even so sure it's going to be Ant-Man and not his mother-in-law or his daughter? To me, this is almost
a cameo.
You want to know the truth? To be honest with you, I don't even feel like this is a scoop. I feel like this is like Grace Randolph sat down and goes, "Who do we got? Okay, this is clearly going to be the Avengers."
And that's what it feels like to me. Even if that is what it is, she's probably not wrong.
Yeah, I'm not saying she's probably wrong, but to me at this point, I'm like, I don't give a fuck. And Spider-Man actually has to do something to get me, to keep me interested. Because No Way Home was kind of a fluke of sorts, because I didn't care for the second one as much as I did the first one, but the third film was fun. Now, does it do anything for the Marvel Universe? Not really. But that's probably one of its saving graces, is that it doesn't have to really do much with the other stuff other than Doctor Strange. So
I remember when the first Avengers movie was set up. I was
Yeah.
so excited to see
yeah,
all these superheroes together. I genuinely remember being excited about the idea. Each one had been nicely set up on their own with some very good individual movies. The first Captain America movie was fantastic. Winter Soldier was terrific.
I'll tell you when it first dawned on
Thor
me,
was
Paul,
good. I liked the Branagh Thor. I thought was very Shakespearean.
because the Samuel L. Jackson thing in Iron Man didn't really tip me off, because I was like, okay, Shield has something to do with Marvel, Iron Man. I just figured they were bringing Shield in the sequel. I didn't think nothing of it at that point.
He wasn't in the first movie.
Yeah, he was. Samuel L. Jackson was in the first Iron Man at the
Post-credit scene. That's the
Yeah.
post-credit
okay.
scene.
So I just figured, okay, they're just bringing in Shield, and obviously they even
Are
had.
you expecting me to remember every post-credit?
Okay, but my point is this. Okay, so then I go to see Hulk, right? And I happen to be dating the same person I was at the time that I saw Iron Man with, and we're watching Hulk. And at the very end of Hulk, here comes Robert Downey Jr., and she's kind of confused. And I said, "Don't you get it?" She's like, "What?" I said, "He's Iron Man." She's like, "Yeah." I said, "They're doing the Avengers." She's like, "What's that?"
That's it. That's the end of our relationship. You're
Yeah,
done.
and I'm just sitting here geeking out like a little kid, and she's just like, "I have no idea what you're fucking talking about."
Well, she would. She would. The world would, a few years later, come 2012 with the release of the Avengers. And to me, this is kind of like the amazing thing, because that set the world on fire, and it instantly skyrocketed Marvel to the biggest entertainment brand of all time. This movie is going to do the opposite. This is going to deflate what is left in the Marvel balloon. This is what's going to take Marvel from an A-list brand to a B brand. Because this right here, like right now, like Disney Plus level quality, that's a slur right now. That's nothing to write home about. This here looks like the Disney Plus Avengers. This looks like a cheap knockoff. This looks like a derivative just from the casting alone. Because during phase 1, 2, and 3, all of those characters, for most of them, were completely unknown to the public at large. Like, people around the world, they have very limited idea who Captain America is before that movie. No one knew anything about Hawkeye or Black Widow or Iron Man, for that matter. Like, these were new commodities to a very big section of the movie-going audience worldwide. Yet there was something about their execution where magic happened and people instantly just fell in love with them. We're not seeing that now. We're getting new characters that in principle isn't any different from getting new characters before, but these are characters that were rejected by the audience by and large. Evidence being Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which I maintain is a referendum on all of Phase 4. And now it's all of those characters that individually were rejected that's being put together. No good can come of this, especially not when you look at the writer and the director. This is going to tank Marvel, is my expectation for this. And it's not going to help that Jonathan Majors is this amazing, super duper actor, according to the entertainment media complex. It's not going to help that you have 1,000 different versions of him, not when these are your heroes that you're supposed to follow. Of course, I don't blame the writer for trying to make us root for Kang, because if these are the heroes, maybe you're better off rooting for the villain. So, yeah. Good times.
I Andre, I think you put it best. This is the Disney Plus version. And be honest, if some of this was leading up to like a Disney Plus Avengers kind of series event thing, I'd be like, yeah, okay, whatever. I'm not saying I'd get excited for it, but I could see it because that's the level it's at. This is not what Paul was saying before. It's not feeling like it's leading up to this big event like we used to have with, and up to Endgame, basically. where we knew every couple of years we were going to get one of these things. At this point, it's just this isn't even the B team. This is like the D squad.
Well, I guess I have a question.
It's
probably,
the D plus squad.
right, but I mean, let me direct this to the script. He's probably most likely to know. Don't you feel like they've written, because they created these Disney Plus shows to introduce these, backdoor introduce these characters, that they've devalued their properties overall, especially when they are taking like D and E and F listers and trying to elevate them to, as important as the previous Avenger team that we got to see develop fully over the course of many films?
No, they didn't devalue them by introducing them. They devalued them by not giving them their due with regards to character quality and development.
Right.
Doesn't matter how you introduce them. If you introduce a great character, if it's on TV or film, people will come and watch. And if you want to cross that over from TV to film or film to TV, people will come and watch. We've seen it with Star Trek. Those characters started on the television show. They were introduced rather well and well defined. And when the movie came out, the motion picture, people went and saw it. And even though it didn't do huge numbers and stuff, it did inspire Paramount enough to say, okay, let's do another one. And they did. They did 6 following that TV series.
Right.
Audiences will come if you do justice to the characters. Nothing. Disney had the correct formula with regards to, if we can monetize our streaming service and introduce these characters in a more controlled environment and then elevate them to the movies, people will watch. That is relatively true. But the thing that they didn't pay attention to is, well, are we going to tell great stories and are we going to make these characters the best they can be so that audiences want to see them? And they didn't do that. They dropped the ball huge. So no, you're not devaluing the character just by putting them on Disney Plus or what have you. You're devaluing them by just not giving them good stories for people to like.
Can I introduce an idea though? Okay, sure. So we just saw an amazing, a few years ago, we had these amazing street level Marvel characters, right? You had Daredevil, Hell's Kitchen,
Daredevil, Luke Cage, and
you had Hell's Kitchen. It was exactly. It was well represented. It was like a show that a lot of people got around, specifically Daredevil and Punisher. And you saw these characters, street level characters, and then you take that character, kind of show him off a little bit in the Spider-Man No Way Home film, but then you drop him into this incredibly inferior She-Hulk show, basically reducing his value. I think I'm suggesting that Disney Plus is reducing the value of these properties.
Well, it's how they're handling the writing of the show that's reducing the value. Again, like Disney Plus skyrocketed with The Mandalorian and WandaVision. It was the execution of how they did WandaVision that people started to tune out with, and then followed by Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Loki and so forth. It's not the brand itself was strong enough to get them there, but the quality wasn't there to retain them. And that's the thing. Like, there is nothing to say that, 5 years ago, if you said, we're going to do a She-Hulk show and we're going to have Daredevil swing by, everyone that saw Daredevil on Netflix would be very excited to see that pair up. And it was actually kind of true when they teased it a little bit in the first teasers before the show debuted. But then again, the show was so bad, people tuned out. It's always the quality. It's not necessarily the players that are being put on the platform. The platform, I mean, I understand Marshall McLuhan's medium is the message. There's some truth to that, but I've read his stuff. I don't always agree with it, but there's validity to it.
Right. Yeah.
But the thing is that you have to take into account the individual agency of the audience and the agency of the people that are creating the product. And if the people that are creating it are not giving it their all to try and tell the best stories they can, and the audience isn't liking it, the medium is irrelevant at that point because it's the quality of the work.
Yeah, you are, of course, correct. And that's like the issue. I mean, that's why I think that Disney Plus has gotten this kind of like stigma of being like subpar and B-list.
Yeah.
Because the quality of the work of the writers that they have given the gigs on Disney Plus, their work simply hasn't been there. Which is why you do not say Disney in the same breath as HBO, unless you just list streaming services. When it comes to like quality, Disney Plus doesn't have a Sopranos. It doesn't have an Oz. It doesn't have any like classics like that. Like what I mean is like you say the name HBO and you have like some quality high-end associations with it. You could have had that with Disney Plus too, But as you say, Script, they dropped that ball. And with that, let's...
No, I agree, actually.
Just out of curiosity, what was HBO's revenue model?
HBO was all subscription based through cable, and actually was...
That's what it is. So they, right. It was one of the first cable entities out there.
Premium channel.
Yeah, it was a premium channel. So I was just wondering, because Disney Plus is no financial model.
No, Disney actually used to have a similar thing. They actually were the first channel to give HBO any run for its money with the Disney Channel back in the day.
Right. But that was all.
And they should have. Yeah, but they still had. They should have used that momentum and that whole strategy to build Disney Plus on. But
completely agree with you. Yes.
And that's what it was. It was basically like what Andre was saying, was the TV premium version of Disney's delivery system, right? And in that case, even then, they were smart enough not to let their vault films on there too often. Very rarely did you get an occasion where you were getting shown one of those films,
and it was an event.
Exactly, like the one time I think they showed Lion King, it was a huge deal and stuff like that. But they very rarely have shown any of the vault classics on there.
Indeed.
And so now, like, D Plus has gone the opposite direction. But Andre's right; most of these shows could have been well received and considered prestige or premium shows, but their value is garbage, and it seeped into the films too, both ways, or however you want to look at it. They're the same, if you ask me. There's no differentiation.
Contagion spread is what you're looking for.
Thank you.
Could we say that it's essentially they created under Feige a factory or an assembly line, and it's full of its own faults all the way through the process?
To a point, yes. Like the McDonaldization, as I've pointed out before, was part of the problem. That wouldn't be a problem if it wasn't for the woke, though, because if they were just continuing to churn out, it could still be one kind of like the last. As long as it was decent, people wouldn't give a shit.
I submit that's why Phase 4 has been rejected. It's because these they no longer have the character agency that the earlier introduced characters that audiences weren't familiar with either. They had a level of agency that these new Phase 4 characters just don't have. Instead, they have their identities front and center, as if that makes the character